Labor has a women problem. And no, I don't mean that they don't have any decent, capable women. What I mean is that the party itself has a problem with women. And ironically, we can trace this problem back to Labor's first two female state premiers, West Australian Premier Carmen Lawrence and Victorian Premier Joan Kirner. Now, Joan Kirner became Victorian Premier later in the same year that Carmen Lawrence became the first ever female state premier in Australia. But Joan Kirner faced an election first, becoming the first woman in Australian history as a Labor Party leader to face an election as the head of the state. Now, that sounds like a progressive historical milestone, but in my opinion, Joan Kirner was actually this sacrificial lamb, the fall girl. She was used as an ablative shield by the backroom power brokers to take the damage and then be discarded when her usefulness was exhausted. And then the power brokers, mostly men of course, just get on with business unharmed. And it worked. Almost. I say almost because Joan Kirner refused to be discarded and she joined forces with Carmen Lawrence to form the most influential support organisation for Labor Party women in Australia, an organisation known as Emily's List Australia. Kirner and Lawrence thought that they were going to help women succeed where they had struggled. They were going to help other Labor Party women to learn from their mistakes, but the evidence would suggest that in reality, they've taught these other Labor Party women how to repeat their mistakes. And Jacinta Allan today, well, she's endorsed and supported by Emily's List Australia, and in my opinion, she's doing it all over again. She's drunk the same poisoned chalice and is being used by backroom power brokers as yet another Labor fall girl. History says, don't make me repeat myself, but these Labor Party women, I don't think they're listening. My name is Topher Field, this is the Topher Project, and I help people like you to make sense of the world as it goes mad around us. Now, I am 100% viewer supported, so please head to goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com, grab a copy of my best-selling books, my award-winning DVD, and my merch, including this quote from history saying, don't make me repeat myself. It makes people have a chuckle as I walk past them in the street. Plus, there's my Getting Your Head in the Game online masterclass and so much more. And by going there, you'll be helping me to keep doing what I do. Okay, back to this Labor Party women problem. What do the following Labor Party women, all state premiers, have in common? Carmen Lawrence in West Australia from 1990 to 93, Joan Kirner, Victoria, 1990 to 92, Christina Keneally from New South Wales, 2009 to 2011, and Lara Giddings in Tasmania from 2011 to 2014. What do they have in common? They all took power in a leadership spill, and they all went on to lose power at the very next election. In fact, only two female state premiers from the Labor Party have ever actually won an election whilst leading the government, and those are Anna Bligh and Anastasia Palaszczuk, both from Queensland. In every other case, in every other state, female Labor Party leaders have been given leadership only once the party is in terrible electoral trouble, and then they go on to be roundly defeated in the following doomed election. I'd actually go further, because I believe that this is what was supposed to happen to Julia Gillard, Australia's first female Prime Minister. She repeated the pattern by coming to power in a leadership spill, stabbing Kevin Rudd in the back in mid-2010, with an election just 2 months away. Rudd had become unelectable. They had to replace him, but the power brokers needed someone disposable. Someone they didn't actually want to win. It didn't have to be someone competent, it just had to be someone silly enough to be willing to take the fall. Someone who could be the face of the party in defeat, take all of the reputational damage, and then be discarded and replaced with someone that these power brokers actually wanted to be in power at the next election. Someone that they felt was competent, specifically somebody male. What they didn't expect was that Julia Gillard would actually achieve the impossible, winning the impossible election and becoming not only Australia's first female Prime Minister, but also the first woman to be elected as Prime Minister as well. Albeit into a minority government, it still counts. Now, the Labor Party power brokers did not expect that to happen, and they did not want that to happen, and they knew that Julia Gillard was not up to the job. Have you ever heard of a post turtle? It's a turtle on top of a post. And if you see one of these while you're out walking, you might look at it and go, I don't know how that turtle got on top of that post, but I know it didn't get there by itself. Well, Julia Gillard would be a great example of a political post turtle. How did she get there? Well, not by herself. She was shoved out there by the power brokers to take the fall, but they didn't think that she would actually win. Julia Gillard quickly bumbled her way straight into the same electoral oblivion that Kevin Rudd had been in before her, and before these power brokers knew what was happening, she had to be replaced as well. But with whom? The poisoned chalice hadn't killed its intended target, Julia Gillard, and now they had an even more toxic brew, and no one to serve it to. So they reached for the only person blindly ambitious enough to believe that he could win back a now deeply disillusioned electorate, and we saw the spectacle of the return of the Rudd. Now, of course, he suffered exactly the defeat which Julia Gillard was supposed to suffer the election before, and the power brokers threw them all under the bus and moved on. It just took them an election longer than what they'd originally planned. Now, today, Jacinta Allan in Victoria has been suckered into drinking from that same poisoned chalice. She's repeated the mistakes of Joan Kirner almost exactly, taking over from a deeply unpopular three-term premier who left the state with spending and a debt crisis, with organised crime on the rise and restless unions making the state uncompetitive, unproductive, and expensive. Does that sound familiar? Because it should. Because that exact description applies precisely to both Joan Kirner taking over from John Cain in the 90s and to Jacinta Allan taking over from Daniel Andrews in the 2020s. But there's one more thing that unites all of these women, besides the fact that they're being used as fall girls for the latest factional men's club. And it's that, with the exception of Christina Keneally, who I can't quite get a definitive answer on, all of these women are endorsed by or supported by Emily's List Australia. This is the organisation that was founded by former Labor Party fall girls Carmen Lawrence and Joan Kirner, who, after their understandably underwhelming experiences as Labor Party state premiers, where they were only promoted to that top job so they could get the maximum fall, they formed Emily's List Australia to support Labor women, especially the women who had ambitions of being in political power. The promise of Emily's List Australia appears to be that they will help you to succeed. They will help you to avoid the mistakes of their founders, Kirner and Lawrence. But the evidence of what Emily's List actually achieves, based on the experiences of Gillard, Keneally, Giddings, and more than likely Victoria's Jacinta Allan coming up soon, is that through the support of Emily's List Australia, they haven't learned how to avoid the mistakes. They've learned how to repeat them. And I'm not sure that this is a bug in Emily's List or in the Labor Party system. I suspect that this might actually be a feature. You see, if you buy a cat and it gets eaten by a dog, you'd say, well, the dog attacked the cat. But if you keep buying more cats and they keep being eaten by that dog, so you buy another kitten and it gets eaten, so you buy another and it gets eaten, at some point you have to admit that it's no longer the dog eating your cats, it's you feeding the dog. And if you're a women's advocacy group supposedly empowering women to succeed in Labor Party politics, but they keep getting eaten by the Labor Party power brokers, chewed up and spat out, taking the fall on behalf of the boys' club so that the boys' club can just pick up the pieces and carry on undamaged, then at some point you have to wonder, is this women's advocacy group really raising up empowered women, or is it just there to feed the dog? Labor have a women problem. And if I were a competent, capable woman in the Labor Party, I would be very wary of any power brokers pushing me towards a leadership spill against a sitting premier or prime minister. Because when it comes to women in leadership in the Labor Party, they never seem to be the ones that get the happy ending. And if you think I'm wrong, well, let's both just watch carefully what happens with Jacinta Allan at the next Victorian election. My name's Topher Field, this is the Topher Project, and I help busy people like yourself to make sense of the nonsense that fills the world around us. If you like this sort of content, then please support my work by going to goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com, buying my books, t-shirts, hoodies, DVDs, or my online masterclass. Thanks in advance for your support. Please also like, comment, subscribe. YouTube think that you'll like this video here, so why not check it out? Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and as always, stay free.